Good evening, all. I think I've got voice. That's saying I've got voice. This has got saying I've got voice. Good evening. Welcome to another stream, Star Citizen, all evening for the next hour or two. Welcome into Base Truther, Mad Teapot, to Citizen Ninja, Dr. Pepix, Savas, Space Saga, Nero, to Stunner, Calco, Ashra, Marcus, Hero Lulz, Ray Ladderback, Blamsmith, Wiggy1, and everyone else that's in. Guys, I'm gonna start with an apology. It's probably a mistake me doing this evening for things that are absolutely not Star Citizen related and everything else. I probably shouldn't be doing this. There is every chance that the stream will need to end early, and I might not be taking things in the right sort of way. So just an apology to start off with. But I went to basically can the stream, and there's a bunch of you guys in here waiting to go, and I didn't want to let you down. So we're gonna push through. We're gonna give this a go. I'm gonna start on the caffeine-free Coke because that's how my life's going right now. And then, if needs be, we will upgrade to a can of cider later on. But we'll see. I knew there was stuff that I wanted to talk about this evening, and the problem is, yeah. There's so much going on at the minute. I'm sure I've forgotten stuff. So if there's stuff that you guys want to talk about and we want to go through, the big thing at the moment, I think, for me, is a video by Astropub, by Paul over at the Astro Historian, about the potential delays with Squadron 42. And this seems to come about from people that he's talked about, but yet they seem to be the same people that have confirmed, like, for example, that the Clipper wasn't a Drake ship, so we really don't know. So there's that stuff going on. Is everyone in chat knowing the video that I was talking about or not? Because if so, we can have a quick watch of some of Paul's stuff. Because I've learned a new trick. There's something I'm supposed to have to do when I'm watching someone else's videos, which is you're supposed to like leave the stuff up so you can see whose video I'm watching, basically. Apparently, so yeah, we can do that, and I can show everyone the new trick that I've learnt. But yeah, what I take it most people know the video that I'm talking about. Yeah, so basically just to go and have a look. So let's have a look. Playlists, history. Here we go. Right. So none of this stuff is loaded up at the minute because I've literally just thrown everything together. We're on the old camera, so we might have camera issues because the new camera at the minute, for whatever reason, I put it on charge and it's decided that it didn't want to do that. So I've got to look in. I think there might have been a loose connection where the battery was concerned. So yeah, it's been one of those days. If I'm being honest, I'm trying to cheer up. I'm honest, or honestly, I am. But I'm a grumpy badger at the minute. I'm more like a honey badger than a cuddly badger. I do still have. He's down on my shelf down here. I do still have cuddly badger. Maybe this is the time for the emotional support badger to come out and get me out of my funk, as it were. But we'll see. Yeah, I can't kind of see it at the moment. I know it's in here somewhere because it's just a really big picture of Paul's face and then the words. But I'm not gonna lie, I've been watching so much of this at the minute. Let's have a look. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Ugh, that's better. That's the one I wanted. That's the one I wanted. I know this is like really poor viewing because I'm talking about stuff that you guys can't see, and I apologise for that. But we're getting there. So it's not there. Yeah. So I don't know what he called the video, but it's not showing up on my feed for some reason, which is really good. I don't know. Has he been forced to take it down? John says, I'm working on something for Star Citizen and would love your input. Can I DM you on Discord? Yes, please, mate. Yeah, absolutely. Please do. Star says, I'm frustrated with the lack of communication about it having nothing now for the first 5 months of the year. Yeah, I mean, the only thing we know for sure is that when they canned the CitizenCon thing, they canned it and basically said, you know, hey, look, you know, the reason we're canning this is because, and that was that, right? You know, they said Squadron is still coming this year, but we're pausing at the moment because this is happening. So yeah, oh, there we go. It's that one. I did find it right. So let's go.
The Dark Horse of Star Citizen.
He's a good
This
looking
is a
chap.
capsule.
Oh, Paul.
A small segment of my office hours live stream that I do on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, here on twitch.tv/theastropub, youtube.com/theastropub live. We'd love to have you join us live as we talk about Star Citizen lore news and more. Today is an interesting one. This is going to probably be a little shorter. I'm going to start off the story and explain this is about Squadron 42. And I will also say that CIG has leaked like a sieve. Multiple devs have contacted me over the last year or so just to check up on the game. I reach out for them every so often, just being like, hey, what's going on? How's everything doing? And generally speaking, this is the progression of what I have heard. This is all me talking to people.
So we're gonna talk about this a couple of times this evening because there's something else really interesting that's kind of come out of this that I think is worth talking about as well. But I said but. Generally speaking, this is about conversations that people have had offline with CIG staff. There is no confirmation here, and that's basically what he's saying. Okay.
These people are parts of different teams. They may not know what the other teams are doing. They may not have a full picture. They're from upper management all the way down to the bottom rung. The general progress of what I have been hearing is that as of last year, they basically, when Chris said they entered polish phase, he was being overly ambitious.
Which I don't think is going to be a surprise to anyone in here. Is it? So, there.
He had stretched his meaning as Chris likes to do. But by the middle of the year, yeah, these are all trust me bro sources. I do, when I say trust me bro, I mean, you can take what I say as real. I'll steal.
And this is important, and I'll kind of jump ahead a little bit here, because I don't want to throw Paul under the bus, but he's basically saying he's talked to staff. No, he's not going to reveal who they are because it'll get them in trouble, right? It's the potential, you know, we've seen people fired over at Rockstar purportedly because they released information about the game. Some say it was about unions. Regardless, there is the point is, if they had fired them against releasing, because they released info for the game, that would have made it legal. So, yeah. So this is part of it, is that he's not willing to out these people, rightly so. They've spoken to him in confidence and like, hey, maybe this can go out, but don't use my name. This is people's jobs that he's talking about. So he's basically saying that you have to trust that I've had these conversations with people. This is all trust me, bro. And even then, people within a company, you talk to a company, any company with 1,000 employees, and ask them what's going on with a certain thing that they're about to release, you'll probably get 1,000 different responses, right? Apart from senior management, they might be a bit more in tune, but everyone else will be like, hey, I heard something, and that turns out not to be true, but why would you update that person? Because they wouldn't necessarily be in the know in the first place, and so on and so forth. So there's some issue here, and I'm just going to skip ahead to basically
another thing. What CIG who have this information are CIG. Citizen Con was 2024. Whenever the prologue was released. Let me look that up.
Here we go. So this is
2024. So at the end of 2024. Because of what was happening at the end of 2024, I got to learn a little bit more about what was like the reason why it's failed and stuff like that. But by middle of 2025, the biggest issues they were having was that the game would play well for like a mission or two and then implode. So they were having some problems with stability. Though everyone I
Stop me if this sounds familiar for anything that CIG do normally. Is this familiar to anyone? Does this sound normal to you guys?
talked to when I asked them about the game, they said it was fun. They said the story was all right. But it wasn't finished. It was sort of playable, and you could complete certain things, and you could get the vibe of what was going on, and things were changing. But they pretty much went radio silent around the end of 2025, end of last year. Beginning of this year, I got a flood of these folks coming in and telling me, okay, like end of February, early March, they said, internally, we're looking at October. It's basically done. Their definition of beta Chris's definition of beta was really weird. It was like, would you play it from beginning to end sort of thing? Like the definition was described to me. I'm like, that's not beta. And even like the person who was telling me that specific one, they were just like, I don't know, man. I just work here kind of thing. But it had entered some sort of beta state by February, March. And then from there on, it was basically quiet. I mean, they're working. They got other things to do. I'm not going to bother them.
So just for a second, just remember what he said there, because we're going to come back to this in a second. CitizenCon being October 2024, beta stage by early 2025. Let's keep going.
I have been anticipating CIG making a release date announcement over the last couple of days. They didn't. So I was like, you know what? Let me collect all of the stuff I know about, try to do my best to make sure my sources aren't burned, and like list a lot of things. Like another thing that I heard sometime after 2024 and into 2025 was that CIG was going to release on Steam. Like Squadron 42 is going to go on Steam. It's going to go on all of these different other platforms. At least that was the plan, according to two different sources. Now, is that still a plan? I have no idea. I haven't heard it since then.
And that would be interesting and would make sense, I think, for as wide a reach as possible.
But since we didn't hear anything else, I decided to pull like a list and put it on social media. Just be like, all right, these are all fun things. These are all things you can like what I've learned and picked up here and there.
You can take away my spaceship.
Oh, I thought that I muted that one.
You can take away my space.
There we go. Sorry about that. We were going to have this conversation on with Squadron on the captain's table. Yes, that is what's going to be. X is going to be there. We have a couple.
What's interesting here, I don't know if you can see this on your screens, but just down here, that's execute from the info runners saying, I wanted to save this convo for the weekend, the event that he's talking about, but I can corroborate, I think is what he's saying. He says collaborate, but corroborate what you're saying at Astropub. So this seems to be coming from a number of people, whether it's the same sources to different creators and then back, or whether this is different sources to different creators, we don't know. It's unclear at this point.
A couple of the people there. But so I decided after putting this thread out of all the little details to reach out to the folks again and see how they're doing. Because I did notice that usually CIG goes in cycles where when you start seeing devs posting on Spectrum about things, it means they're like on a break. Usually maybe they're between jobs or something like that, and so they want to reach out. So I figured maybe these guys were on break. Luckily, I caught these folks on break, effectively, or they just weren't working at the time when I contacted them. Chatted up with them, talked with them about what's going on. They were still somewhat enthusiastic. They were a little concerned. What I heard was there is concerns from some of them about performance at release. And I'm like, well, yeah, October is going to be pretty quick turnaround. So I can imagine to be a little concerned, like crunching like that. And then I mentioned, like October, right? And they all went, no, it's not October. It's 2027. They set a specific date in 2027. I am not going to repeat that date in case it gets them in trouble, but it is delayed, according to them. This is what.
So, there we go. So that's where we are at the minute, and that's what's been said. Now, I am not saying that this is true. This is, as someone's already said, it's Chinese whispers. So it's from something to something to something to something to something, and then to us, and this is the information that's coming out. Now, it's quite interesting because the latest official thing that came out of CIG was when they did the CitizenCon announcement, and I can't quite remember the video, but I do have. Let's just pop across. I can show you the bit. This is why when I talk about the rumours where I can, I try to include, and you're going to get a blast of sound in a second. I do apologise. Bear with me a moment. Oh no, it's all right. I fixed it. We're all good. So there's let's have lives. I did this on another live stream, I think, but it was something about rumours and whatever else. Let's have a look. Bear with me just a moment. So I think it's this bit. So you'll have to forgive me because I'm watching the stream, but here we go.
At least celebrating the various combat vehicles that defend, destroy, or otherwise dominate the more adversarial aspects of life in the PU. And this year, we bring that to the forefront like never before with next week's publish of Alpha 4.8 and the long-awaited Tactical Strike Group's release.
I think it's towards the end. Really excited for this, by the way. Really excited. Traveling, right? Think about chat with these chats. I can't remember. It's in here somewhere.
To deliver the newly reworked and fully instanced debut of Siege of Warzone, the new Genesis-built planets of the Nyx system, Starware and Starchitect goodness.
Starware and so there's that. Staged instancing, so the where related. Great. Shut up, badges. Let them talk.
Born out of how important these two games are to everyone on both sides of these projects. And while we'll certainly miss getting to meet so many of you at once.
There we go. 42 not coming. Emergent than an event you go and trigger the year. Which we certain people mind interview.
Sorry. A lot we got going on for the remainder of this year. And for that reason, we've made the decision not to host a CitizenCon event for 2026. Either in person, digital, direct, or otherwise.
There you go. So digital, direct, or otherwise. So no CitizenCon at all. No direct one, no online, no shortened 2-hour, blah, 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 blah. Nothing is coming this year. Which is good, because he's doing my job for me while we're watching.
It's a decision born out of how important these two games are to everyone on both sides of these projects. And while we'll certainly miss getting to meet so many of you at once, we do encourage you to check out the Bar Citizen World Tour that's well underway, because we always enjoy every opportunity we get to meet you and hear your stories.
More on that
For
later.
instance, I'm going to Amsterdam in a couple weeks. Come find me and tell me how your TSG experiences went. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee.
Okay, so I've lost a bit, and I'm not going to skip through it, but just so you're aware, right? That's where that comes from. So he basically says, for the release of Squadron 42 later this year. So the most official thing that we have is that it is coming this year. Okay? However, it would not be the first time that information has kind of been post-dated or out of date or any of that sort of stuff, right? Kind of overtaken by events. So we don't know, because of course it might be that there are internal decisions being made that Jared is not kind of aware of. So there are a lot of possibilities there. So yeah. Hey Luna, good to see you, my friend. Yeah, Badger Squared, exactly. Lots of us. Honestly, I expect CCA6 had the knock-on impacts to everyone else's release schedules, and then they've probably left CIG with some scheduling issues. Yeah, I mean, so the interesting thing here is that at the moment it's not entirely clear GTA 6's release window, whether it falls into this year's Game Awards or next year's Game Awards. Someone might be able to look it up for me while I talk. But yeah, so there's that, right? So there is every reason that Chris might, for example, try and go to get a Game of the Year award. You're not competing with Grand Theft Auto 6. If they don't screw it up, we're not going to compete. I mean, then again, you look at some of the games that have been winning awards recently, and it could be anyone's show. But I don't think it's going to be for a space sim, multi mission shooter, regardless of how good it is. If it's up against things like that. So, yeah. So that's the thing. So this is the big rumor at the moment that's kind of grasped the community, and that seems to be the big thing there. So yeah, so we don't know any more than that at this point. Okay, and unless anyone's able to show me a link, okay, but at this point they're not so there. I just want to have a look at this. So on Twitter there was a post by Jared, and this is kind of, I guess this is kind of the same thing, right? But I just want to, all right, let's try this a different way, because of course, because I'm not on Twitter, because I'm a human being with a life. Sorry for anyone that is on Twitter. Yeah, my bad. I just need to grab this a second. So let's grab that. Let's put something fun in the background. So we'll put the old video back up. Put the snippet over the top. Why is it doing this? Honestly, today of all days, this computer's going out the window in a minute. Was this, and this is really important. Not that any of us would do it. I just think it's worth putting up, which is basically people have been trying to record what other people have said, or what the conversations that have been going on at CitizenCon without the other people knowing about it, which is just flat out creepy in any context, no matter what is going on, unless you feel like your life's in danger or the law's being broken. Like, don't record other people when they don't know. It's like, even when people record the police, they do it right in front of their face, right? This is just creepy, and I haven't pulled the whole tweet up, but yeah. It basically says, please don't do it, it's gross, and it will basically end up with CIG staff not going to these events. So, just kind of, I guess, if you've got friends and stuff that start doing this, just tell them not to. It's pants. Like, they know there's lots of leaks, they know there's lots of information coming out about this stuff, and, it's just don't do it, basically. Right, I'm going to jump back across to this just for a second. This is a sneak peek thing that's coming up at the minute, but some of the rumours coming out of CitizenCon are this, okay? So apparently Nyx 1 teased for September, which is kind of interesting, because they've got 3 planets to release by the end of the year, because that's what they said we would get with Nyx. There are 3 planets in Nyx, 1, 2, and 3. One of them's a blue gas giant, blue gas giant, so should be pretty easy to put out quite quickly. Squadron 42 will not feature at Summer Games Fest. There'll be a new faction coming in 4.9. These are all rumours. These are all just stuff coming out of the Rotterdam Bar Citizen Q&A. Base building apparently is slated for 2027. Take that with a pinch of salt. Ironclad allegedly is to get piloting from the bridge. A second Gattac ship releasing alongside the Raylan. Inspired by a scene from Space Odyssey. Suit lockers teased for 4.9 or 4.10. Siege of Origin and instancing 4.9, which we knew anyway, and he actually reconfirmed that there. and apparently alien ship defense missions coming in 4.8.3, which I'd imagine will take a little bit longer because they've got so many server issues now. And then there are a bunch of additional rumours. The planned ships for July and August were apparently swapped due to unfortunate events related to a developer. This is all sat on a Discord, so I'm not pulling this up. This is why I'm reading it to you with a random sneak peek picture in the background. The Kruger Stingray is the first ship planned to have 3 functional states, similar to something like the Scorpius 2. The Idris, currently in game, is described as version 4. The one in Squadron is version 5, and what we'll end up with eventually in the PU is something called like a 4.5. It will be bits of the 5, not all of it. Okay, there are basically design changes on the Squadron version that wouldn't be possible in a multiplayer environment, as well as other spoiler-related reasons. Odin will be sold again and sold regularly. We're going to talk about the Odin, so I'll just put a pin in that for now. The 4.8 patch was the most played patch in history, even before the free fly had been enabled. 10 contract limit is expected to stay until the system is built to be more robust. And the suit lockers are, as of this moment, queued for July. However, may slip back to September 4.10. So it is apparently an internal priority. Whatever that means. So yeah, lots of stuff going on at the minute. That's where we are. People are not sue them. There was a recording. Yeah, well, apparently they tried to. I would imagine the staff turned around and went, "You need to delete that because that's not good." Antarox, I was requesting refund for a see it hasn't been replied for 36 hours. Am I doing something wrong? No, just stick with it, mate. I don't know what's going on with that. But yeah, bear it in mind as well, we've just come out, this is one of their busiest periods. They've got a huge backlog with all the sales and stuff, and we had a bank holiday in the UK, and I think US had it as well, Labor Day, last week, so they're going to be choked up. So stick with it, mate, and if you get no reply, I would suggest by the end of the week to come, then stick another, press for an update, mate. But there we go. Yeah, there's lots of stuff going on with this. Lots of rumours, lots of bits and pieces to come out there. Obviously, the Ironclad getting bridge flying is an interesting one. Would make sense, I suppose, at least from a cool perspective. There we go. That's disappointing. They should be teasing the next star system. Yeah, I mean, again, I know we had this conversation with Nix, and I was wrong. But I'm going to die on this hill regardless. There needs to be a reason for it. There needs to be a reason to plough all the resources in to putting a new system out. What is the drive? Other than, what is the space for? We don't need. I know that's kind of a joke, but what do we need the game space for? What do we need the extra volume for? At the moment, we don't even have Nix, and I think, we've got 2 asteroid belts and a main station, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, Well, they said all of the Nix planets this year, right? When they released it, they said it would be built out throughout 2026. So we should have them all by the end of the year. I can't remember if Nix 1 is the hero planet or if it's Nix whatever. But I would guess with Star Architect and stuff, it would be Nix. It would be the hero planet. But there we go. Can't have Castra unless Genesis is in. Yeah, I mean, there's parts of that. So Star Architect is coming. So Genesis is the name for a group of systems. So just bear that in mind as we go forward, that you've got Planet Tech V5 and you've got Star Architect and you've got all those different systems coming to be Genesis. So Genesis is just going to be this thing that I think constantly changes, and they'll be, hey, this is the new thing we're adding to Genesis, and this will be this we're adding to Genesis, and this will be that we're adding to Genesis, and so on and so forth. So Genesis is like the game, something I think that's never going to be finished. Although it might change name. New planets, new enemies, new PvP. I mean, PvP, it's the same old PvP the whole way through. new enemies. It's human and Vandal. I think Vandal would be. I mean, I did say I think it would be something to see this year. I'm not so sure right now. I said that at the time. I'm not sure if that is still how I feel, and here's for why. Right. We had a really good run throughout 2025 and for the first couple of months of 2026. And by a good run, I mean they focused on playability, they focused on giving us more content. We had everything from Stormbreaker all the way through to Rockbreaker, Rockcracker, which we've just had now. Awesome in-game events, loads of stuff to do. Like right now, when we come and do our Friday night things on through the Discord, there's a huge choice. You got Hathor, you've got ASD, you've got whatever it is you want to do, tactical strike groups, Vandal, thingy missions, all that sort of stuff. And things got more stable, things got far more playable. All the metrics was telling us that. Our own playtime was saying that, and that was going really well. But I did caution last year, and I know loads of other people did it too. It wasn't like I was the only one that said it. But what we said last year was just be aware that things are going to get worse again before they get better. Because at some point they've got to start putting other things back into the game, and they've got to start adding new features and all that sort of stuff. And the problem becomes that we're so used to things being on an upward trajectory that we're like, hey, this is going to be stability. This is what it's going to be like now. And everything added in, it's going to stay this playable. Of course, that's not the reality, right? Is that already we've had people whinging that new stuff isn't coming and, where's the new gameplay loops and all that sort of stuff. You've only got to look at Spectrum. Well, pre-Battlecruiser, you've only got to look at Spectrum to see that sort of stuff. Last patch, and I've even seen some videos, some from pretty good creators, some from people who just like to farm drama, and it's all like, oh my god, things have never been this bad, and it's like, well, clearly someone didn't play during 3.18, or at least try to. So it feels like a massive step back because of all the problems that we've had. The Ironclad is really suffering at the minute, and that's not just, that's the new tech that's coming in, being command modules and ships being able to take authority of other ships. To us, it doesn't feel like a huge gameplay thing. Programming wise, my understanding is that this is a little bit more important than all that. So we have all this stuff kind of going on. There are going to be these setbacks, and if people think this is going to be the last of them in terms of playability, then people need to think about that, because it's not. This isn't the last time we're going to have these issues with playability. It isn't going to be the last time the servers feel like a real struggle. It does, however, coming back to what I said about Vandal and new enemies to fight and everything else, it does, when this happens, it makes it very, very hard to imagine new stuff coming anytime soon, because it feels like we're once again wading through treacle. They pushed 3.8 out. Sorry, 4.8 out before it was ready. 4.8 was not ready, and they will not convince me otherwise. 4.8 was a struggle. 4.8 was rough. Is rough, is still. And if you play the game at the moment, you don't need me to tell you this, you're experiencing it for yourself. For those that are in here and like, hey, I just kind of watch, shout out to Luna and everything else, there are these things, right? And I'm just going to pick up on this comment because it's a really good one. Peach, I can't wait for Genesis V2 to solve all the problems. And this is the problem, is people keep expecting a silver bullet, and it's not. There are no silver bullets at the moment. Yes, dynamic or, kind of quasi-dynamic server meshing might help stuff. Dynamic server meshing will help stuff, but they've got so many things. They're all interconnected, as you would imagine in a multiplayer game, massively multiplayer game. There are a lot of things that feed into each other, and just changing one thing over here, programmers will know exactly what I mean, can break a whole bunch of things over here without meaning to, without understanding that they were interreliant in any way. You can do some weird stuff with programming just by changing a few things. They are not changing a few things. They are massively developing across multiple streams of work, of areas of the game that are all relying on each other. Because that's what makes a game of the detail of what we want, right? And there's that. And I know someone's going to jump in and say, this is cope. Right? And this is why I said I probably shouldn't stream, because normally I'm not like this. But if that's you, come here, because we need to talk just for a second, right? Promise I'm not throwing hands. Sharp. Just fucking sharp. Just give it a rest, right? I have been told, I have read, I have heard, I have seen so many times. Apparently the game's dying, right? Apparently it's all for naught. What are we doing? The game's about to collapse. It's been about to collapse forever, and yet we've just hit $1 billion in funding. The number of players is going up. The play time is going up. The free flies are more popular than ever. More ships are being bought than ever. Shut up, right? The game's here to stay. We've got to stop talking about this game now like it's not going to happen, right? Of course, things can go wrong. But the vaporware... Remember when this game used to be called vaporware? Or a tech demo? Do you notice how that's gone away? That's not by fucking accident. That's because it's bollocks. And I am looking forward to when Squadron 42 comes out. I'm looking forward to 1.0 release for a whole host of reasons. But there is a petulant, right, childish part of me that cannot wait to go back through all the videos that I've got into the comments about this game is never coming, and gleefully I will put this comment aged well on all of them. Because some of us in here hold the faith, and for the rest of the people that didn't declare cope, everyone in here, for those of us that held the faith, for those of us that knew where this was going, for those of us that soldiered on through the bugs and all the nonsense and all the bollocks that we've had to put up with, not just from the game and miscommunication from CIG, and God knows they've done a lot of that, and everything else that you've got to put up with. I'm going to transition back to this because we're having a moment. And everything else we've had to put up with as a community, to then have other members of the community and people outside the community tell us that we're stupid, we're being scammed, we're all this, that, and the other. All I will say now is, now that we've hit 1 billion, now that we've had the year that we've had, regardless of the problems we're at now, all I've got to say to you guys is, that. And this is why I probably should have streamed tonight, but that's where we go. That's where we go. Okay, so that's where I'm gonna just leave it there. But that's it. It's because sometimes, you know, when you're here and you like I do the videos, I do think about what's going to be said in the comments, and that started out because if I can anticipate the questions in the comments, I can put answers to the questions in the video. This is especially important, like when you're doing guides and stuff. I can put answers to that in the video, so then you don't have people going, yeah, but you didn't show where this was, or yeah, but you didn't show how to do that. It's like, well, okay, but I can do this. Like I can show you. Maybe I can talk about loadout. Maybe I can talk about whatever it is. The problem is with this game in particular, that asking yourself what's going to be said in the comments, because of the comments you've read in the past, becomes this. Well, I just know people are going to whinge. I know, oh, this is copium, this is hopium, this is scam, vaporware, meh, 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 meh. Go away. Peppa Pig's on TV. Go watch that. That'll be fun, right? I've heard. For those people, for the people that do like dropping those sorts of comments, this is, again, for you. The windows taste like strawberries. Go, trust me. Trust me, strawberries. Give them a lick. Some people aren't going to be old enough to understand that reference. For the rest of them that are, lol. So there we go. Yeah, exactly that. So, yeah, there we go. Can says, with the wipe it's made for the game fun. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's given people a lot of stuff to work towards now, which is good. So there. I've got to say it's not a scam vaporware, but it is unfortunately still a very buggy mess. It is absolutely 100%. I'm not making excuses for it, and you know I kind of, and I know you're not saying that I'm making excuses for it, Avi. I know that as well. We know that it's a mess. We know that CIG don't make the best decisions all the time. We know that they don't communicate very well. We know there's some very questionable stuff that has happened. And it doesn't, you know, these things I don't think are going to suddenly disappear. These things are going to continue to happen because, like anything, a company is made up of people and people make mistakes. People make bad judgment calls, all that sort of stuff. But I do think it's really important for us to remember that. And I do think that the fact that we are at $1 billion in crowdfunding just indicates, and this is the bit that I really want to take. So coming back to the rest of us, right? And the Cope people, join us. This is fun, right? There are so many people out there with the same dream that we have of playing this game where everything is interconnected and things are more physicalized than they've ever been before and the world is more detailed. I've said for some time, CIG are not building a game, they're building a reality simulator, right? As much as you can do to still, it's a game, it still needs to be fun. Some of it isn't right now, but we all have this shared view, and this is what keeps me coming back to Star Citizen. The guys in Discord will tell you right now, for one reason or another, I'm not playing the game an awful lot. Part of it is work. Part of it is I hate the state that 4.8 is in. But even I can say that, even now that I'm looking at it and going, yeah, I'm not really feeling it right now. I know I'm going to come back to it. I know I'm going to really enjoy it. We've been playing tactical strike groups quite a bit. So yeah, this has been a public service announcement brought to you by Drinkers with Gaming Problems. I feel fucking exhausted now. I suppose, seeing as we're talking funding, it's probably worth having a look at that, right? We'll just have a look at the normal. I've just flashbanged myself. That's great. So let's have a look, because we're not even out of. I'm not gonna lie, guys. That is chuffing ridiculous. Right, let's have a look. So there we go. 44 million. When we did this, we were, I think, when I last looked at this before the Odin, we were 23, 24 million, because I remember saying I didn't think it was going to get to 29. We might miss it. I mean, I don't know what crack I was smoking. Do you know what I mean? Look at that. We are not even at the end of halfway through the year, and the closest year in funding we had to be in August at this point. So we've got Alien Week with 2 alien ships coming. We've got the Stingray coming soon, which I know everyone's going to go, the Kruger one, everyone's going to go nuts for that. If it's anything like the Wolf, that was a very popular release. So this is kind of crazy, right? And that, I remember this graph where this stuff, the Perseus, was up here. So there we go. So yeah, PG, yeah, just read through some of the comments on my videos, man. That's what I'm reacting to there. Great that it hit 1 billion in crowdfunding, but the way they did it definitely pissed off a lot of people because of lies. What were the lies? I didn't log in during DefenseCon because I knew. Yeah, Wiggy, it was rough. It still is, to be honest. In fact, even now, it still feels like a bit of a free fly. We did tactical strike groups again last Friday. Good fun event. If you are not one of the fighters, though, interestingly, there's not a lot to it. Unless you're a fighter or in the boarding team, there's actually not a huge amount there to crack on with. And what's kind of, I mean, yes, you've got the fighting around the tranquility and all that sort of stuff, but And maybe it's just because it's broken at the minute, but we killed a couple of waves and then that was it. We just sat there waiting, taking photos of, all the ships around or screenshots of all the ships around the Tranquility. There's not a lot really there to get on with, unless you're boarding or a fighter. And I get it. I know why they've done it, because the Tranquility, obviously, as a carrier, is there for the fighters and everything else. And that means that people who haven't bought carriers, who don't have access to it within their fleets or their friendship groups, if they're not in an org, can still take part. And at this early stage, that's kind of important. I just hope CIG develop the kahunas later on down the line to go, no, there are some missions here that without a carrier or some sort of rearm refuel, you're really going to struggle. That sort of stuff. Because right now, I get it. It's too early. People can't earn this stuff in game. You can't go up to an Idris, as far as I'm aware, unless you do it through the Wicklow stuff, and that brings its whole host of challenges. So yeah, in fact, it's Polaris through Wicklow, isn't it? So yeah. I'm still betting the other alien ship as a Radiant salvage or mining variant. Very possibly. Yes, because it's not going to be combat, as far as we're aware. Did the refueling and rearm work for you in the NPC ship? So I was, unsurprisingly, Chaos Score, I was doing a, I was captain in the Perseus. Unsurprisingly, I think Rash had the other Perseus as well. Rash, if you're here, hi. And a hello to everyone else that's come in. There's been so many of you. We're up to 92 people. So welcome in. Sorry if I haven't said hello. If you're lurking, welcome. If it's your first time, good to have you. If it's not, welcome back. Yeah, I've been flying the Perseus. What we did have is, for some reason, I lost control of the Perseus. I had to basically shut her down, shut the components down and restart them, because I was just accelerating in a straight line, which resulted in me bouncing off the asteroid. Not once, but twice, which is incredibly frustrating, because you're like, I can't fly this thing, I promise. But for some reason, my quantum zeroed out, my quantum fuel. Not like, oh, you haven't got enough to go to the next place, like zero. Not 0.000013, no, zero. So I ended up getting a Starlight to come out and refuel my quantum fuel. So it worked for me when I was the one being refueled, and that was quite good fun. It was quite cool to watch that happening. So there we go. As far as I'm aware of, the 9 times TSG I've done, rearm, refuel, repair hasn't worked a single time. That's a shame. Sailor Storm, welcome in, buddy. Good to see you. So yeah. Alien refueler, that might be good. Yeah, I'm kind of hoping they stay away from some of the things with alien ships, because it would be really cool later on down the line for mining and salvage to have an alien version of the gameplay, not just an alien ship. I've said this a bunch of times, so I won't go too much detail into it right now, but it would be really cool to go, okay, some people want to mine, but they don't like the way the mining stuff works at the moment. Well, we'll create an alien one, and as well as having like its own perks and its own, benefits and drawbacks, there'll be a slightly different UI, a slightly different way to play that, because, aliens don't necessarily mine in the same way that we do, right? So that would be cool. I just want a mining ship that's alien with a special bespoke mining letter that looks cool, says Wooty. Yeah, something like that. Tranquility is basically a giant defend me location. It is. I want race factions in the game. I would love to play an alien. Yes, so Tavarin, Jian, I think those are coming at some point. It's like in the release map for way down the line. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. So there's that. But yeah, I mean, we've done TSG with our own carriers, but I don't think anyone's actually come back to rearm, repair, refuel. I think we've just done it with what we've taken there. So, that sort of stuff. But yeah, I quite enjoy being in the Perseus doing that sort of stuff and taking out the hammerheads and the connies and the opposing Perseus that attacking Tranquility. I really quite enjoy that. There's actually a surprising amount of concepts from the military, being an officer of the watch on a warship, in terms of protecting a high value unit that is transferable into the game. And maybe at some point I'll start putting that into a game So captains and then maybe fleets can use those tactics. That might be quite cool. But let's see how the game develops first. Whatever I do right now is just going to change way down the line. So yeah, that's that, and that's everything that's going on with that. We have this. Let's jump on the sneak peek just very quickly. Don't know what that is. All I can say is it looks. There's ammo. Is it a display thing for your hangar? This definitely looks like. This is a Rivals, it says here behind. So it looks like we're going to get some sort of display piece, maybe physicalized weapon storage later on for hangars. So that's what it looks like. That gun is new. Is that not just the shotgun? It might not be. No, is that the scalpel sniper? That double-barreled bit at the end. I think that's the scalpel sniper, and then that's something else. I think that's the scalpel sniper. So there we go. I really look forward to the supposed Ironclad fix. This 4.8 in that case has been really disappointing for me since my hull is still broken like always. Yeah, that's a shame. It's a bullpup. Yeah, it might be. Who is it that makes the scalpel sniper rifle? Maybe it's the same manufacturer then. That could be a bullpup. I still think that's the trigger assembly though. Then what's that? I don't know. I think it might be a scalpel rifle without a mag in it, and that's the mag set back there. It's a new bearing. Mag's behind the trigger. Yeah, no, I know you're talking about the NPC Idris. That's what I'm saying. Is that even with our own carriers, we've not had to use it. So the fact that it doesn't work, I don't think changes the fact that at the moment it's something you can do with or without a carrier. The main reason you need those big ships to come into TSG is to fight them all at the end if you want to. So yeah. I wonder if the people that say repair, refuel, rearm doesn't work know that you need to have the resources on board. Yeah, so yeah, that's talking about. Yeah, sorry, that's what Edison's responding to. So yes, the repair, rearm, refuel is the Tranquility specifically, which is the People's Alliance Idris in the Tactical Strike Groups mission. It looks like weapon or ammo construction and modification bench to me. Yeah, all of the above. All of the above. Maybe also ammo types. That'd be quite cool. Do you think refueling the tankers will work like skimming different layers of gas giants? Not sure. It would be useful to have larger refueling, because at the moment I think what we're finding is with ships like the Starlight, if you look at how much you pay to refuel your tanks and then how much you work per mission, I don't think it's balanced particularly well. I think you can end up actually losing money. So yeah, they've got to work. Will it work in terms of like getting those sorts of stuff? They talked about, didn't they, going and refining gases and like the gas harvesting. So possibly it might be different layers. It might be areas of clouds, something different to mining. So find a node, go and mine it would be great. So the idea of layers in gas giants would be awesome. Something like that would be very, very cool. Rather than just a go to this bit, open your gas harvesting mode, do the thing, close your gas harvesting mode, and go to the next stuff. It would be nice to see them, provide variations on a theme, as it were. So yeah, maybe it's a tweaking station where you could upgrade your crafted gun components. Possibly, yeah. I mean, we've got component crafting still to come, I think, haven't we? So that's where we go. Is that a bullpup rifle sitting there on the left? Shady Phase. People are saying so. It could be. I'm not convinced because I don't know what that is. It's too close to the trigger assembly to be a foregrip. So if that is, that's the pistol grip. That's your trigger assembly. This sticks down. I don't know. It is what it is at that point, I guess. So there we go. If it's crafting surgery needs to fix the problems with cancelling a craft and just poof, your materials are gone, yeah, that's not good. I just want that spider surface miner thingy. It's at Rockbreaker. You can see them at Rockbreaker. I suppose you can kind of go sit on one, maybe? No? Okay. Just curiosity, it says arrival in the back wall. There's a picture, maybe it's a municipal works entrance. It might be. I think this is hangar. I think this is something that's going to go in our hangars. I reckon. But you're right, it could be. Crafting bench for guns? Possibly. I'm wondering why it's taking so long for them to make a high damage laser pistol. I don't know. Maybe it's just not supposed to be high damage. Maybe they're supposed to be faster firing. But yeah. Yeah, I think it's both. I mean, this sort of stuff here definitely looks like similar to the displays on the Polaris in the Captain's Cabin, where you can pin weapons to the wall. I can't remember if you can do it in the Idris, but I know you can do it in the Polaris. So yeah. You've sent me a picture of the bearing bullpup. So this is me, no doubt, being wrong. Let me have a look, mate. Is that? I don't think they're the same thing, although I might be wrong. Yeah, I'm wrong. It's fine. Let's have a look. Bonk. So, yeah, I don't know. It might just be the image quality or the angle making things look weird. But that's a bullpup. Bullpup, basically, for those that are non-military, means the magazine sits behind the trigger guard and not in front of it. So, where on the P4AR you would have this bit sat here and the magazine sat there, this switches it around. Yeah, so instead of holding the weapon like that and reloading from here, you hold the weapon like that and reload from here. SA-80, the British SA-80, does the same thing, and there are a bunch of other weapons. The FN FAL, I think, does the same thing. Not the FN FAL. I know the weapon I'm talking about, even if it's not. But yes, so that's bullpup. I'm not an infantryman. So what the benefits are of a bullpup versus a more conventional other way round, I don't know. So I'm sure we've got a couple of ex-army guys in the chat. So, FAMAS, thank you, Marcus. That's the one. It's not the FAL, it's the FAMAS. The FAMAS does the same thing, which is, I think, French. I think Belgians use it, don't they? A couple other countries. But yeah. So, there we go. I have a dream. I just want the rock fixed. Lol, I'm simple. Yeah, absolutely. Having a 15-minute idle kick timer and you need to stand around in your hangar for an hour plus to craft ship weapons and comps are just broken. Yeah. So yeah, it needs to persist while you're doing stuff. The one in the crate has a barrel sticking out, so it can't be that bullpup. That's what I thought. Unless that's an attachment added to it. It's also, this is Foundry 42, so I don't know. But yeah, there are definite barrels there. This might be an attachment. I don't know. It might just be that one or other is a more outdated version. Because, there you go. Bullpup is faster muzzle sweep. Yeah, so because it's closer in and you have your point of control is further forward, you've got a faster movement. So better in close range and confined environments. Is that right, Jay Gross? French and French Legion, yeah. I hope the ejection port can be flipped, otherwise someone is going to have hot rounds pinging off their helmet. Yeah, same for anything with a ballistic weapon. It sucks to be a left-hander because you just keep catching it to the face. Jay Gross, yeah, thank you, mate, and welcome in, by the way. Zero Vega, good to see you, and everyone else that I haven't said hello to, welcome in. Thanks for joining. So yeah, so that's where we are. We've covered so far the potential delay. There are now rumours, apparently backed by CGI sources, CIG sources. That's a Freudian slip. That Squadron 42 may be coming 2027. A specific date was mentioned. We don't know what that date is because that hasn't been released in order to get people to prevent people getting in trouble. We don't know at this stage. There is no official source. There is no official documentation. It's all trust me, bro. So just bear that in mind. We've talked about a couple of the rumours coming from the Citizen Cons, things like Nix 1 in September. We've talked about things like the Ironclad apparently getting bridge flying, which I know is going to make a lot of people kind of happy. It still looks like, and I'm really happy for this, in July, so a month and a bit's time, we should be getting Siege of Orison as the first of our in-game instances. Again, going to be very, very cool. Still waiting for a HUD on helmet visor. Yeah, absolutely. Bullpup will allow for full-length barrels and associated muzzle velocities with shorter overall weapon length. Yeah, because if you move the magazine back further, then the longer barrel sits further back into the weapon. That also makes sense. So yeah, again, really useful for, as Richard Scarlett says, CQB, which for those not familiar with the term is close quarters battles. Close quarter battles. There we go. Yeah. Marcus says, my cat terrorizes me because I make him chicken. That was completely out of left field, but I appreciate it. Hello to your cat. Squadron 42 will come out when it comes out. I really don't care about the single player game. I only know it pisses me off that the Status Star Citizen MMO is worse because of it. Yeah, I understand that. I for myself, I'm very much looking forward to getting my hands on that game. Brackets, I can't wait. It's going to be. I think it's going to be good fun. Having kind of played not the original Wing Commanders, but the kind of like Starlancer, Freelancer, the spin-offs from that. I really enjoyed those, so I'm sure it's going to be good fun. And I'm looking forward to there being a tangible part of their story, right? And them being able to say, hey, look, this is the verse that we're building, this is the storyline that goes behind it. So, yeah, that's going to be good fun. Yeah. This looks like VHS-2, very, very possibly. So there we go. Right, I suppose we better talk about it, because it kind of blew my mind at the minute, and I did a bit of a kind of 404 badges not found when it first came out, because I couldn't decide what I thought about it when it launched. Okay, the Odin, the Allfather of War. So the Odin came out. Was sold as a concept sale. For those that aren't aware, yet another milestone in CIG's game development is that the Odin is the last concept ship. So the concept ships will still be sold going forward until they become flyable, but there will be no more ships, assures CIG, going to concept stage. Everything following the Odin will be released straight to flyable, which basically means that ships like science ships and stuff like that, data runners, we're not going to see for a long old time until those gameplay loops come in. So sorry for people that really like the idea of those loops, but until those gameplay loops come in, you can pretty much guarantee, I think, 1 or 2 ships to go along with that launch. It might mean that kind of ship launches, when gameplay features come in, become gameplay feature focused, which is going to be interesting, because there'll be some people that are interested in the gameplay loop, some people that won't be. But that's where we are. Now, what I think I was trying to say was let's talk about the ship itself. Just the ship, right? You're going to go fly around in a ship, and the Odin is the ship that you're in. This ship is an incredible kind of org base, right? As far as the idea of Star Citizen goes, this for me is the closest we've come so far to realizing what that looks like, right? In terms of, people manually loading torpedoes from the cargo deck onto the hoist system, from the hoist into the silos, the tram system on the interior, this whole ship that you move around that basically becomes an entire game location by itself. That is really, really exciting. It also seems incredibly rushed. The fact that they were reading out locations and things, and they're like, why has that got a question mark? Oh, because that's what I wanted. Yeah, but we haven't confirmed that. So it sounds like at some point, prior to the live stream that announced this, and prior to its release, they basically sat down with, what do people think could go in it? In other words, this is very, very early on in its inception. There was a rumour that went around that this is needed for Squadron 42 Episode 2. I don't think that's the case, because I think a lot of those locations would have been required by the story. Of course, there's going to be other things that needed to be added, but I don't think that's the case. I think if you're going to do that, it's going to be ships like the Bengal. Maybe even you interact with the Retribution, right? Which is the huge destroyer version, or dreadnought version, of... it's a single ship. It's a unique ship that players won't ever get to own, but the Retribution is scary. So that's that. That's the Odin as it stands by itself, right? As an org, you've got all your kind of role-playing areas. You've got your briefing rooms sort of stuff. Depending on what they let you do with maps, that might be quite good fun. You've got ridiculously big weapons. You've got a huge internal hangar space. Loads and loads and loads of fun in there. Stop. Okay. So there's that. Okay. Now, Odin looks incredible, closest to, as far as I can see, to the original Star Citizen vision of what you do inside the ship and all that sort of stuff. Now, when you put it in the context of the other ships in Star Citizen, I can see why people are so miffed. I can see why people are angry. Right? It makes sense to me. Because I'm not entirely sure what we've got in the game that will fight this thing other than another battlecruiser. It's just... It's power creep in the extreme, I guess. The idea that the beam weapon is pilot controlled is lunacy. I said that at the time. I think it even more now. Yeah. It's ludicrous. Do I think... Sorry. Sebastian says, do you think we're still getting a cruiser? I think it's going to be straight to flyable. I think it's going to be straight to flyable. I think there'll be a lot of information about it beforehand to start building up the hype in the same way that there is with the Battlecruiser, and the concept sale builds that hype. I think we'll find out about it, and maybe we'll see parts of it being demoed, see it in a fight. I still think they have to basically honour it because it's a Kickstarter pledge. I see what Avi says about didn't specify if they had to be player, but everything that's in the list at the moment is player controlled. So I don't see why the cruiser would be any different. The big question is there are cruisers shown in the Squadron 42 demo. I don't think those will be what we get to play with. I think they're going to be exclusively military because they are Bengal sized. Maybe there'll be things that you craft in game exactly like the Bengal is. So maybe it's that, right? Because they never said the one thing they definitely didn't say is that it will be released for sale. So maybe the thing about the Battlecruiser, they said it's the largest player ship will ever sell. That doesn't mean the cruiser can't be larger and just not sold. So semantics possibly, but there we are. Yeah, thanks, Sebastian. Yeah, Heatwave managed it. It was really rough. Kind of Sunday, Monday. Saturday was pretty rough as well. Just because I was also on a caffeine detox at the same time. That's why all my cans are golden now. No caffeine. Go me. This is what being old means. Hey, Red Samurai, good to see you, buddy. So yeah, I don't see how you fight this thing. It's incredibly powerful. It's covered in guns, and the problem is with ships like this is once you get to that size, you can have crazy kind of weaponry on it, like the size 12s and banks, not just individual, but banks of defense turrets. I think this is the problem that they're going to have to come up with, right? Is that you can turrets by themselves, PDCs, you can begin to defeat them if they're isolated because you don't have to face them all at once. If you've got a bank of like 12 of them sat together and you try and get some shots in on them, they can all turn around and engage you, and you're not fighting when you're fighting 12. You know, that becomes a bit of a bad call in my book. I know what they've said. I know they're saying they want it to be visible, they want these to be targetable locations. But you know, if you've got multiple PDCs, then being able to like dumbfire missiles from point blank range will help. If you've got 12 of them, what's the chance that all 12 are going to be engaged in other targets? The other question that the Odins raise for me is speed. Right? Is one of velocity, is how fast things are going to move. Right? This thing is going to be glacially slow when you compare it to the top speed of, say, the Perseus. Why would this thing be faster than the Perseus in SCM? Right? It doesn't make a lot of sense, because then the Perseus has no chance against this, and Perseus, Tiburon, Hammerhead, Polaris, Idris, any of those ships, right? Any of the top end ships. I'm not just picking the Perseus because it's my baby, although that's why it popped to mind. But you see what I mean, right? Is that one of the things that you do against incredibly powerful ships is you make them really, really, really slow. And I think much slower than the top speeds we've got of like the slowest ships in the game at the moment, like the Perseus, is going to make this thing glacially slow, and I think things are going to get faster as a result. They're going to have to. Or they're going to have to do something else with this. Or there is such a warning when this thing comes. You know, a signal that it's it's kilometres and kilometres and kilometres away to give you that chance to disengage and get away from it. Because if it can just drop straight into the middle of combat and just have at everything around it. The other thing is the rarity thing has gone out the window. We saw on the other funding screen, they've sold so many of these already, and they're going to keep selling them. So this idea that, hey, you might come up against one, but they'll be rare as sin, which, if you remember, was the original plan for the Bengal. The Bengal was only ever supposed to be something we could find crashed as a wreck or wreckage of a battle in like an asteroid field or a debris field. And the idea was orgs were going to find them, they were going to fight over them as they repaired them, they were going to bring all the resources in, get them to the point where they could be mobile, and that was how we were going to acquire them. Now, it very much seems from the 2024 CitizenCon that we'll craft them at stations. Which means there'll be a lot more of them than we were expecting. And it's the same thing here. There are going to be a lot more of these, I think, than people are prepared to run. Now, just because there are lots of them kicking around doesn't mean they're going to be well run, they're going to be well coordinated, and that everything is going to be manned. And this brings us back to that bloody beam weapon and the fact that it's pilot controlled. I don't need, with that many PDCs on it, I don't need every turret manned. I don't. All I got to do is get you in front of me once, and that's why I think there's going to be a huge warning. We know when things like the Javelin and the Idris are coming because you've got a huge signature at quite a range. This thing will triple or even quadruple that, I think. You are going to know when this thing is coming, and fighting it is going to be a conscious choice or a lack of situational awareness rather than it just jumped on top of us and now we've got to deal with it. So yeah, it should only have big guns and require support for close range area control. The pilot solo lasers are nuts too. Yeah, that's absolutely. I mean, they have stretching some of their prior comments. This is notably larger and makes the Javelin obsolete. Yeah, I mean, it's like anything, right? Is that the idea of a battleship on its own makes every other ship obsolete, and yet history has shown us that, you know, the advent of the battleship didn't kill the cruiser, the destroyer, the light cruisers, the carriers, and anything else, right? Even, you know, there are only a couple of ship classes that have been condemned to history. The Battlecruiser and the Battleship being two of them, and actually, that's more to do with the advent of missiles than anything else. You know, even the aircraft carrier, arguably, although it had a role at the time, looking back on it now, the building of bigger, larger, more powerful warships, submarines had just as much to do with that, because modern torpedoes don't kill through explosions, they kill through using the weight of the ship against itself. So having large ships, and that's what you would do with these ships, right? If we were going to do this logically, the way you deal with large ships is you'd come up with some sort of weapon that uses the weight of a vessel against itself, some sort of gravity-based weapon. The higher the mass, the more damage and the more effective this is, and that's how you would counter this. I don't think CIG are going to do that, but that would make sense, right? It's that sort of stuff. It's the same thing as you look at the USS Cole incident that happened a while ago. A couple of people got into a dinghy with a bunch of explosives in it and basically drove it into the side of USS Cole, basically wrote that ship off, right? Killed a bunch of sailors, blew the side of the ship open. It needed to be taken home on the back of a shipping ship. It's, yeah. And that was not a case of, oh, we've got to fight that. We've got to make something bigger or more powerful. It's, well, we've got to fight that and we'll just identify its weakest point, which is when it's coming into harbour and it's got all these vessels coming in to help and move around it. And actually what we need is small, manoeuvrable, can get right up to the side of it and then detonate some explosives. And that's exactly what they did. For the cost of, you know, a couple of, maybe not even $1,000, they wrote off a multi-million-dollar warship. And that's what you do against these things. Should be the same way as it's shown in the Star Wars movies. Yeah, big, huge, very, very slow, that sort of stuff. Exactly. I'd say with the mine layer and the torpedo barges, have it as a question as how many mates can one organise. And that's the thing with this, with it being pilot controlled, is those huge banks of PDCs. Is that missiles, torps, it's just going to have at them all. Huge ships should generate their own gravity due to huge mass. Need to seriously start considering fleet tactics and numbers of ships now. A wing of Tiburons can be pretty effective with the right setup. That. Yep. And I think this is what they need to start thinking about. Not now. Not now. Although the earlier you do this, the less pushback you'll get. They need to start thinking about pilot-controlled anything. And I get it, because otherwise as a pilot it's really boring in combat. You are literally manoeuvring for other people. And the other thing is as well, is the coordination between, with a fixed forward weapon like the Tiburon, which can't move at all in the slightest, trying to coordinate between a gunner and the pilot is near impossible. To just kind of identify that. The only way they could really do it is if the pilot can see the marker, and the the gunner, the same marker the gunner has, so the pilot can get themselves on target, but then the gunner's doing what? Clicking. It's a little bit tough. It's not an easy balancing act. I do not envy their task in doing it, but there we go. It shouldn't be able to have turrets deployed when quantum flying. Also, it should take at least 30 seconds for it to arm up. Yeah, there's lots of that sort of stuff. I think power rerouting, taking a lot of time for something like that would work as well, right? And that might mitigate the suddenly jumping in on people. So it's like that change from from nav mode to SCM could take a while. And then just like when you go to quantum and your landing gear goes in and all that sort of stuff, the same sort of thing should happen. But you're exactly right. The turret should duck away, not for aerodynamic reasons, just for that balance of you can't just suddenly arrive and then start nuking everything around you. So yeah, sorry, someone tagged me a little while ago and I didn't see it. Sorry to derail this slightly. Have you heard anything from Pigeon Spaceport in the model send out? I haven't. So the last thing I heard was we should be hearing something in the next month or so. So if I don't hear anything, I'll sling a message and I'll come back to you and see what, and I'll come back to you with whatever they said. But no, we're expecting next month or so we should hear something. They basically had a quality issue, I think, in their first run. They weren't happy with it. So understandably, they've gone back and fixed it, and now they're rerunning. So yeah, apologies. I did see that you tagged me. I just didn't get around to answering it. Aircraft carriers and air power kill battleships along with submarines. Yeah, to an extent. I also think that as naval engagements scale back, there just wasn't the need for them anymore. So it's also about functionality, not requiring that sort of ship, because massive fleet combat like that is not a thing. No worries, Coco. You're welcome, my friend. Drones are doing that to everything at the minute. Yeah, unmanned flight will potentially invalidate some current ways of warfare. I guess we'll just see which way that goes. Antimatter torps that UE Navy have, but they're highly controlled as they're bloody dangerous. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. And yeah, John, you're exactly right. Kahn's already kind of said that. The Russian Black Sea Fleet has been neutralized by Ukrainian drone boats, which is terrifying. And there's a whole bunch of that. I won't go into it just yet because it's not Star Citizen stuff, and also it's a real world thing, and I don't like dragging, as in it's happening right now. With casualties on both sides. When I was down there in 2007, I made a friend in the Ukrainian Navy. It's an exchange officer. I haven't heard of him since the start. I haven't from him since the start of the conflict. I don't know what's going on. Concerned about him is an understatement. But yeah, so, and there might be other people, so I don't want to go into that too much. So yeah, the smallest an object can be before it has a notable gravitational pull. Yeah, is that okay? I will go with that. That's Calco's message. We'll go with that. I hope we get a Polaris-sized Anvil combat ship as CIG builds up the assets for the Odin. Yeah, so they've also talked about, haven't they, that they've got a grid in their head, which is, kind of small, medium, large capital, then, fighter, mining, salvage, refueling, blah, 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 right? And that they've said that there isn't a tick in every single box at the moment. And then once they've there, as they've already started doing, fighters are a really obvious example of this. They're also looking at doing something with, having competitors. So I'm sure they will be, and that would be a very good way moving forward of, continuing to buy ships, or sell ships rather, to fund the development and fund the game servers and all the other costs that sit on the back end. So yeah. Hey Delaney, welcome in, buddy. Good to see you. Thank you very much, mate. That's kind of you to say. Kingship is 3k long, Retribution is 2.7k long. Yeah, big old ships. You mean the Nostromo, Richard? Yeah, I mean, this thing is kind of there. Whether we get big ships like that for us, the question is why. What function does the size fulfill? I don't think it'll be for us. There might well be. I think we're going to see that in things like the Odin system, where the Squadron 42 is going to happen. You've got the huge orbital mining platform thing with the big lasers. That sort of stuff is 100% going to be in. I think you might see a huge mining platforms and, orbital scrap yards. One of the systems, a scrap system. You're going to see that stuff for sure. That stuff's going to exist in the game. For us, again, I'm not saying they won't do it. I think the question for me is, what is the purpose? So yeah. Getting the helmsman to have a challenge is tough. It's mostly open air and open space. They'll only be challenged in an asteroid field. Yes. The big thing, so I find flying the Perseus quite challenging, because it's not about collision. It's about maintaining arcs for your turrets. So it's about whatever you're fighting against as that's moving around. It's making sure that both turrets can hit them with as much uptime as possible. And I think over and above normal gunnery skills, that's actually going to be the deciding factor in engagements like with the Perseus and with other ships like that, where your turrets are split. It's going to be, whereas the Hammerhead just kind of wades in and puts fire all around it, because there aren't blind arcs, for example. If you've got a Perseus above you and it can bring both its turrets to bear, and you're only able to ever bring one to bear, that other Perseus is going to win by default if you've got level skills of gunnery. And I know I'm not explaining anything to Unitarists, but it's a good point for everyone else. So yeah, that reminds me, got to grab a Nautilus at 1.3. I just can't find the love for the Nautilus. I don't know what it is. So there we go. Hey Rusty, good to see you, my friend. I know you've been in for a while, but there we go. Ocean 911 in this decade. Sorry, what was that in response to, mate? Is that with the variants? No, not in this decade. We'll get more, I'm sure, and there will be some variants, but I don't think they're even going to fill out the grid by the end of this decade. I've said for the longest time now that we're not going to get 1.0 before 2030. It's just not going to happen. And I'll die on that hill too. What was the final funding increase in the last 24 hours? Jabba, the only problem with that, mate, is that's assuming that that they were all the Odin. There wasn't much other stuff on. But yeah, unfortunately the hourly breakdown is gone. But there we go. Major Star Stuff, welcome in, buddy. Good to see you, my friend. How you doing? Hammerhead with blades and cannons instead of repeaters is quite useful. Yeah, absolutely. Could be used for exploration, discovery, or an org home, maybe the planet colonization creation gameplay. Yeah, we're talking miles down the road. I mean, don't get me wrong, something like that's going to be very cool. I think the station fulfills that role at the moment. But yeah, further down the line, I'm certainly not ruling it out. I'm just saying that the only question I have to have answered is, why does it need to be that big? If there's an answer for it, then go for it. Does ship size matter with base building? Yes and no. So it's to do with, someone's going to correct me here, but it's basically to do with the amount of drones that come out of the ship that you have, or the platform for base building. So I believe I don't think what you build is linked to the size of the ship that you have. I think the build speed is linked to the amount of drones that you have. So we know that, for instance, the first base building, or the lowest base building tier, is basically like a grav cart thing that you push around, that can go in the back of other ships, so it's not a dedicated vehicle by itself, which is a good move by CIG. It means you don't have to buy a new vehicle just to be involved in that, for something that everyone is likely going to want to have access to at some point, a base of their own, right? That shouldn't be linked to a purchase. But that's going to have, like, I think 2 drones, maybe even just 1. I don't think it's linked. I don't know if it's linked to size. But there we go. Kind of makes you wonder if they just sell a station. I don't think so. But that's where we go. So yeah, and basically what they've said then is, if you leave it there when the drones are done, or when they need more fuel or whatever, they'll go back to their base station. If the drones can't go back to that, if you get the Starlancer build, right, that's a really good example. So the Starlancer build is the unreleased Starlancer variant. That is going to be what the drones come off of. If you leave it there and log out, the drones will know that it's still there. They'll be able to refuel. They'll be able to do all that sort of stuff. Even if you've left all the stuff on pallets and, in location so you can fly off. Then the drones will recover to the ship, and when you log back in, if the building's done, they'll be there. if you fly off and leave them there, if they run out of fuel, the building will stop. And if they've got nowhere to return to, they'll basically be lost, like you fired a missile. And then you'll have to replenish those drones from somewhere else. That is at least the intent as we know so far. So that's what we know. Yeah, an industry capital ship would be incredible, Avi. You're right. I'm always for the non-combat stuff as well. Obviously, I like the combat stuff. I'm really enjoying being a Perseus skipper at the minute. I even managed to fight the urge to go and man a turret when there's one free. Unless we were about to die, which is what happened 2 weeks ago, and then I just got into the turret and went down shooting like a proper naval officer. But there you go. And we say shoot on ships. We don't say, like old, what's-his-face did, Gary Oldman. That's the one thing they got wrong, categorically. He said fire. Which to us would get us running for extinguishers and firefighting kit. So that's why in the Navy we shout shoot, not fire. So there you go. Things you never knew. If that comes up in a pub quiz, you're welcome. Sebastian says, can you just have a dozen Polaris ships as fire the torpedoes at the Battlecruiser? I think that would be enough, right? Yeah, so it would be taking down the PDCs. They talk about stripping down the layers, because if you have all those torpedoes coming in, you manage to set one off, maybe it not blows another one up, which blows another one up, and that sort of stuff. So, yes, there was also, we know flak is coming as well. Or at least that seems to be the intent, that flak will be coming. So, that's going to make that sort of stuff. Like the old Battlestar Galactica. Really cool mental image. I think that's going to be great as a gameplay loop. But there we go. Yeah, 4-5 about to 4-5 function. 4-5 shoot. Yeah, absolutely. Not even weapons free. Nope. Because weapons free, you don't need orders. Weapons free is for ships, not really an order that's given. Not at all. It's that's an infantry thing, or that's a like an aircraft thing. It's not a navy thing. Because you're talking about 80 miles, right? You got like some of our ship-to-ship missiles have ranges of 80 nautical miles plus in one direction. There's 160 miles around you. You could engage an awful lot of targets, and at multiple $1 million per missile. Nope. But yeah. Pioneer will be able to build large bases, though, right? You aren't building a block of flats with a glue gun. No, exactly that. But it's the same idea that it's like building building a skyscraper, right? You can do it with one person. I mean, they probably have to have a kid and then another kid and then another kid, and they take over. It'd be like multiple generations. It's just going to be incredibly slow. And that's the idea. There might be a size requirement. I think at the moment it's still up in the air. There has to be at least one CO with an accent who says shit instead of shoot. Might be, maybe, why not? Why not? I like combat at a smaller scale detail rather than the org style caps and fleet management. Wouldn't mind larger scale industry since it would be independent operation. Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of being the Perseus being like an ambush predator. And I've said this so many times now about the Perseus. The surface raiders that the Tirpitz and Bismarck were supposed to be, the Graf Spee, those sorts of ships that were supposed to get and do the opposite of what the submarines were doing. The submarines were clumping up all the ships because in convoys that's a reasonable way to counter submarines. The idea being submarines had a limited number, U-boats had a limited number of torpedoes, group people up, or group ships up, too many targets, running zigzag plans so they would alter courses to try and throw off targeting solutions. A group of, one destroyer with 40, or 3 destroyers with 40 ships is better than 3 destroyers trying to deal with 40 ships that are all over the place. Because who are you protecting? You also, whichever you protect will obviously be the highest value, you would also, in that instance, if you're sending them individually, signal precisely which ships the U-boat should be trying to sink. So there's that. Surface raiders, going back to ships like the Perseus and their historical equivalents, Tirpitz, Bismarck, Graf Spee, grouped up ships were exactly what they would want, because they just weighed in. The destroyers had no chance against a ship of that size and that power. They would just obliterate those fleets and they wouldn't be able to run fast enough. Battleships went far faster, or those big ships, surface raiders, went far faster than those ships would be able to do. Even if they scattered to the winds, they would cause so much devastation. And that was the point. Let's use U-boats to group everyone together, and then let's get the surface raiders in there and destroy them. And ships like Bismarck, Tirpitz, Graf Spee designed to operate on their own for long periods of time. Very similar to the Perseus. If you're not putting a Nurser in your cargo bay, you can keep it topped up with torps. You notice you've got that back rack for torpedoes that doesn't have anything in it when you first get your ship. That's the point. Longer periods of time, lots of storage space for food and everything else. You got a decent sized crew for rotation. Loads of stuff. Loads of stuff to go on with. And that, for me, I like the tactics of that. Big org tactics, they need a lot added to the game in terms of UI, control systems. There is something in the stretch goals called a fleet command module. Let's see if we can go find it. Bear with me for a second. Explore. Funding. It's somewhere in here. Someone's going to be a bit of a nerd and tell me exactly where it is, aren't you? But let's go. Let's try this. Let's go command. Wing commander. No. No. Oh, command and control center. Is it that one? Supervise the battle from the deck of your Aegis or destroyer with advanced command and control packages that allow you to tie all your ships together and assume central command from the third sheet. That. And I'm sure that given how old this is, bearing in mind that stretch goal was achieved on the 5th of the 7th, 2013, that will extend to more ships. Enhanced capital ship systems. In addition to the command and control systems we've already outlined, we're going to expand capital ship functions, lead a damage control team to fight fires and repair key systems. We have that. Controlled internal bulkheads to slow borders and man a number of consoles like navigation and engineering that will make commanding a capital ship feel even more immersive. Stop me if all of that sounds, apart from the navigation console, sounds familiar already. So there's that. That one, ballistic Gatling, that. I think that's it. Yeah, so that was it. Cool. Is it too much though, mate? What do you mean, space effects? Sorry, buddy. I'm lost. My brain's moving in a million different directions, and if you weren't here at the start, I did say I'm kind of struggling a little bit. So I'm not calling you out or anything. Just trying to figure it out. Feathers, hello, buddy. Good to see you. The hammerhead should have a flak loadout by default. Otherwise, I can't see it being good at its intended roll out of the box. Yeah. The ability to switch out with flak would be really useful for that. For those about to rock. Well, I mean, that's them. The Endeavour is basically a mobile station. It's $350 at the moment. Yeah, on that note, the Endeavour and the Crucible are ships I would really want to watch. If you want to get on the back of other price increases, like the Hull B, like the Raft, like the Radian is about to do, I'm convinced of it, then it's probably worth thinking about the Endeavour and the Crucible if that's your thing. If it's not, then fine. But if you're looking for which ships are likely to do that, those ships are likely that. Is it too much, what, as in terms of all the detail that they're putting in? In any other situation, yeah. Any other developer, any other game, yes. For Star Citizen, no. And the reason I say that is not because of any particular faith. So I'll rephrase that. Because that sounds like I'm talking about specifically CIG and Chris Roberts. Let's rephrase. Is it too much? For any game developed traditionally, yes. For a game without publishers, that, sorry, I got something in my eyes. For a game without a publisher pulling the strings and an absolute deadline of you must launch at this time and blah blah blah, then no, because you have the time to develop that. Because not only has it got to implement in a way that we haven't seen before, it's also got to work well, and it's got to go through iterations. And for an MMO run by publishers who want a return on their investment, you just don't have the time to do that. For a game that's being funded in this way, non-traditionally, players, by and large, willing to wait to get the game and get the vision that they're after, yes. If any game development would warrant that, this is it. Did I buy an Odin? No. And I'm not buying an Odin. Full stop, the end. Not doing it. Absolutely not. You won't find an Odin in my hangar. So there you go. And I feel completely confident in that. Until it gets released in game. It might be something that I move up to. Not only is £5,000, I've got so many things that I would rather do with £5,000 than buy an Odin. I'm in the middle of moving house, so everything's a little bit not tight. That's not the right word, but I've got to be careful. I've got to be careful. The only purchase I made during DefenseCon was going from, I upgraded something to a Starlight. So there's that. Didn't get Tiburon, didn't get anything else. So yeah, there we go. You got a Crucible early. It's your nest egg. Yeah, absolutely. I've got multiple CCUs. Rusty Pigeon, good night, mate. Sleep well. Good to see you, buddy. I'm glad you're well. Every ship and future ship is that $40,000. Stealthy? No, I don't believe so. I don't know what the cost is. Good question. We'll ask. Does anyone have the answer to that? What did it cost to buy every single ship in the game that's available for purchase? I don't know. You can spare on the movers and walk the stuff over. I'm not paying 5k for movers either, mate. So there you go. But yeah, I mean, the other thing about it is not just that money. It's, Jesus, organising that many players. Just, it makes me want to cry. It's got to be more than that, surely. It's got to be more than that. I mean, because Javelin... So 2 ships between them are 8.5, 9k. So just the Javelin is what, 3.5. If you just go for prices, not store credit price. If you just go for buying it outright. No, Stealthy, it's more than that. More like 40k. 50 to 100. Because the thing, so here you go, Stealthy. Here's the thing that's going to terrify you. The Odin Battlecruiser, $5,900 buying it outright, not with store credit, with new money. So that does include that's its straight up value. I don't think that includes tax, right? $3,500 for the Javelin. So those 2 ships between themselves, $9,400. Then you've got the Idris, the Kraken Privateer. Even if you buy the kit, I guess you can do that and cut the price down. But, you know, just for the $1,000 ships. Perseus, Polaris, all sitting at the 800-900 mark. Tiburon, Hammerhead at 700, there or thereabouts. Same. Nautilus. It's huge. It's huge. I'd rather spend the 5k on sticks, VR, and other posh peripherals, says Notorious, than enhance my gameplay across all ships and styles. That. And I get it. I'm not taking anything away from people that get the Odin. People that want it, absolutely, and I understand that. But, and I've said this a lot, and I'm just going to, do you know what? I'm going to turn this bit into a short. I'm not this recording, but I'm going to say this in a short at one point, because fucking some people really need to hear this right now. Just because you can afford a big ship doesn't mean you can run a big ship. And I'm not talking about number of players. If the idea of raid leading in a game makes you want to claw your own eyes out, because of having to organise other people, having to make all the calls, not focusing on your own DPS, but rather monitoring the team and making sure they're doing what they're doing. Monitoring for threats, being the situational awareness, being able to communicate, being able to shut people up when they need to shut up, all that sort of stuff. If that sounds like not fun to you, don't buy a cap ship unless the intent is someone else captains it. That's all I'm going to say. That's as close as I get to financial advice in this game, as if you don't like the idea of raid leading, for the love of God, don't buy a cap ship. There we go. Legatus 2953 is 43,200 plus Odin would be 48. Yeah, and then some 49. So there you go. I'd spend it on a 64 gigabyte RAM kit. Jabba. Well played, sir. Well played. £5,000, 64 gigabytes of RAM, and quite close to that as well. Yeah, most of Odin's firepower can be handled by 8 players or NPCs and blades. Well, yeah, the NPCs and blades things are... Okay, another bit of financial advice. Me having said that I don't do this in the game. I won't tell you what to buy, but I will caution people with this. We still don't know how NPC are going to crew, how NPC crew are going to work. We still don't know when it's going to be implemented. We don't know how easy it's going to be implemented. Same blades. Just because it's got turrets doesn't mean that you're going to be able to blade all of them. I have a feeling, because this makes sense for computers, if you look at the ship matrix, there's a slot for computers, medium, large, small, whatever. I have a feeling the number of blades are going to be determined, that you can put in a ship, are going to be determined by A, the size and number of computers, and B, the function of the ship. So military ships might be able to blade more with a large computer than a non-military ship will with the same large computer. Don't know, but that would be my guess, because that makes computers then make sense as a component. Otherwise, what are they doing? What are they? What's their function? So yeah, you can already see on ships like the Reclaimer, there are slots with where you put the blades, the server blade like ASD and like the Vandal Tech Smuggler missions. There are racks like that already in the Reclaimer, for example. You just can't interact with it. You can't put anything into it, but they're in there. If you go and look at those 2 server rooms up by the drone bay, there are computer racks in there. So that's going to be it. The problem is we don't know how that's going to work. And if that changes in the future, if they say it doesn't work, or we can't do this, or it doesn't balance, or the tech doesn't exist, or it's bugged to hell and it's just breaking the game every time we do it, there are going to be a lot of people who have gone, I'm going to solo my ship with loads of NPC crew and blades, and that's going to fix everything, who are going to be very, very disappointed. And if that would stop you from pledging for a ship, I wouldn't pledge. Would be my advice. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money, but I would certainly caution against you spending. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what to spend it on, but I might say it might be wise not to do that. Just saying. So there we go. That sounds like work to me, but then I run lines in a factory. Yeah, absolutely. Getting the crew, the fuel, the ammo, supply of food, repair, weapons, spare parts, carry small items. It gets into the 100k and then into the millions, and might even get into the billions to run big ships. It's going to be significant. It's going to be significant. And at the moment, we can't imagine it, right? Because we've had ships. Our first tactical strike group. Sorry, Space Saga. This is going to be like bringing up trauma. But Space Saga spent ages, and the team spent ages loading up his Idris, getting everything ready for tactical strike groups. I was at work, but they did a sterling job putting it together. Got to the location, and there's a bug where the first ship often gets cleaned up by script and gets just deleted out of midair. Space Saga suddenly found himself floating midair. His Idris destroyed or just deleted. All of the RCM on there, all of the everything gone. So the idea of imagining being able to load up ships and comfortably leave them, store them, not worry about them, seems so far off. And that's because it is. And that's why we talk about this stuff. So yeah, the Tiburon really confused me. It seems cool, but I don't see the value over Perseus. So the Tibi will do a lot more damage to armor and get through on bigger ships. The idea with the size 8s is they're going to struggle against ships like the Mauler, right? Against turrets and stuff like that, against engine modules, PDCs, the main manned and remote turrets, they'll do fine. Against the armor, it's going to be a very long and protracted engagement. The Tiburon will do more damage in that. So the Tiburon is an anti-cap weapon because it's size 10. The Medusa's sub-caps. And then the Hammerhead is obviously anti-fighter, and that's the trifecta. Hammerhead, Perseus, Tiburon. But I appreciate the love for the Perseus, and I will still take a Perseus in that matchup. Love it. Listening to those guns light off at the same time against the Mauler is chef's kiss. Space Pirate News Network, welcome in, buddy. And their response is always, we cannot help with that. We do not have the tools to fix it for you. Sorry, but you have to wait for a fix. Exactly that. Yeah. So yes. It's a Murphy law of combat, but it applies to Star Citizen in just the same way. No plan survives contact intact. In other words, you get a great plan, you get there, and it all goes to shit in the first instance because Star Citizen does Star Citizen things, and there goes your plan. So there we go. The number of active PDC should equal number of blades. Balancing that class of ship will be a nightmare. Yeah, so the blades obviously won't do PDCs, so I'm not sure what you're driving at. But yeah, there'll be separate things, and it might be that you can sacrifice a number of PDCs to blade another turret. We don't know. We just don't know. We're too far out. So yeah. That was the FAQ. Jabba, good to see you, buddy. Take it easy. We'll catch you in a little bit, my friend. Be good. And if you can't be good, be careful. There we go, comlinks. It's always been. They even said in the Perseus thing, sub-cap slayers. That's what they were called. So is it it was the Defense Con ship questions. And I know I'm staring at it. Here we go. I just can't see it. So it was on the Tiburon bit, and it basically said, how does it fit in with everything else? So let's have a look. Here we go. Perseus is designed for engaging large sub-capital threats. Hammerhead is anti-fighter. Tiburon takes on capital ships, the combination. It's always been that way. And in fact, if you go back to the Perseus brochure, like I said, the Medusas were nicknamed sub-cap slayers. So, yeah, that's where that's coming from. If your plan is working, more than likely it's a trap. Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. That's no worry, buddy. Perseus anti-sub-cap weapon. It's the other way around, according to them. Tiburon takes on capital ships. Perseus is sub-caps. Large. It goes snappy really quick. Situation normal, all fucked up. Yeah. Exactly that. Prospector, welcome in, buddy. Good to see you. The thing is, why I introduce all these new ships and get through the backlog. I mean, the Prospector and the Freelancer have been legacy ships forever. Yeah, so Prospector and Freelancer are pretty much there. I think the Prospector is still waiting for its components. The Freelancers had them all now. They've got a problem with like the VTOL and stuff, but I just don't think it's a. I don't think it's a priority. So, yeah. The backlog, so much of the backlog is going to sit where it is for a while. And it's a shame, but that's just that, right? Let's take, for example, the Endeavour. Aside from the hospital module and the hangar module, nothing on the Endeavour is going to be anytime soon. The farms, the science labs, the Hadron Collider, the telescope, none of that's going to be in for ages. And in fact, I think if you look at the plan for 1.0, science gameplay is not a 1.0 feature. So the Endeavour, they've already confirmed it with the Endeavour, but even even based on science. They didn't have to confirm it, because they're saying now they don't want to release ships without all that gameplay, and they're proving that as they go through. There are bits that are released that don't have all of it. For example, the Clipper obviously didn't have its crafting table working when it was released, but everything else, the fighting, the cargo bay, the med bed, all that sort of stuff was in. So that's something I think that people just have to bear in mind going forward. BMM, yeah, part of the BMM is the shop, the ability to display items, the armor racks, the lock stuff down, stop people stealing it when you put it down. That's required. And also, it's a huge project, and it's requiring so much work in terms of, kind of like the developer kit, as they talk, the manufacturer kit. So the design language isn't there. RSI is really easy. Kind of Aegis is really easy because you've got loads of that design language already in other ships. BMM, it's a big bit of work. I'm not making an excuse for them. I'm just saying, that's the way it is. Science was such a big thing back in the day too. Absolutely Prospector. And I can't wait. I'm hoping that leaving it till after 1.0 allows them to slow down on so much other stuff. And the people that are building in the core systems, those teams can be scaled back. And they can go more into the gameplay stuff, because I really want science to be something impressive. I want science gameplay to be like, we've never seen something like this in gaming. I really want it to be impressive. I want it to be, oh my god, this is awesome, not just a sub-crafting or, loop. So there we go. Not the first time COG has run the ships on his own roll. Yeah, I think that's the plan. I mean, it makes sense, right? Tiburon's going to hit bigger stuff because it's size 10. Of course, the Perseus, when it initially came out, was size 7s. So they got upped to size 8s when it released. So maybe they wanted it to be a little bit more impressive, but yeah. But that's where we are. Hey, Sangrupa, welcome in, buddy. Good to see you. It's true to form, my friend. You're in 2 minutes before we call this. But there we go. So that's where we are at the moment. There's lots going on, and I think I'll just reiterate what I said earlier, because we've got a decent amount of people in the stream right now. Things like this, things like 4.8 are going to happen again. Be prepared for it. No doubt the game will improve over the next couple of patches. They'll see players start to drop off. It'll scare the crap out of them. They'll, go mad on all the game systems, bring the stability back in, and then they'll bring in new features. And, I'm sure Starkitect's going to do some damage. I'm sure Planet Tech V5 is going to do some damage, and all that sort of stuff, right? These things, we just expect them. And knowing that they're coming, yes, it's going to suck when they hit, and nothing's going to stop that. But at least being able to anticipate it, knows you can write it out. And, hey, like, 007 First Light's just released. Go play that for a bit. Go and enjoy it. I've literally just re-downloaded Sea of Thieves, of all things, to go and play that for a bit. Whatever it is that you do, just don't... And I think this is the thing with this game regularly, is for a lot of people, this becomes an all or nothing. And it's going to be a very bumpy, very stressful way to play this game going forward, is that when the times are rubbish, then it's really, really crap. And being able to step away and do something else really does help. And I think it's kind of important for that sort of stuff. But there we go. Matt Teapot's been playing MechWarrior 5 Mercs again. Nice, enjoyed it. I've never played it. Worth playing, do you think? Worth giving it a go? At least I caught your cast a couple of minutes. Absolutely. I've been watching since 2016. I bought at 18 with a freelancer upgraded for a prospector, and I changed my fleet more times than I can get. Right now I have a total of 7 ships. Nice, mate. Decent sized fleet by the sounds of things. And again, I'm not advocating that anyone buys anything more than a game package, but one of the benefits of having a decent sized fleet is certainly, and 7 is a very, very healthy fleet, is that when something breaks, as long as they're not all based in the same, as long as you're not got 7 prospectors, if mining breaks, you've got 1 prospector, you've got 6 other ships to choose from to do some other stuff. So I completely get it. For me, my prospector, although I was really enjoying using it, that's a buying game for me. So I need to earn up to that again and then kit it out properly. But yeah, No Man's Sky's latest update is space combat focus. Yeah, and Starfield's gone to the seamless travel now, or the endless travel, whatever it is. I might have to re-download that and give that a go at some point. So yeah, if you want big stumpy robots, it's good. They got better at storytelling over its lifetime. Nice. Crimson Desert for Game of the Year says Based. I haven't tried that either, Treether. I might try and give that a go at some point as well. But yeah, I haven't done that quite yet. So there we go, guys. Thank you very much for bearing with me. There's a couple of times my brain almost 404'd. Like I said, it's been a bit of a rough day. If I'm being honest, I'm just going to go and cry into a pillow in a bit. I've not done the cider because drinking when I'm feeling like this is not the smartest decision I've ever made. I've learned from that, so I'm going to go and cry into a pillow for a bit. But it's been great to see you all. Thank you very much. Link to the Discord if you want to join and have further discussions. And just pop in when you see us. If I'm in doing something that people can't pop into, you won't be able to see me. I'll be in a hidden channel. So if you want to join the Discord, it's on the fold below. We do games nights as a community every 9 p.m. UK time, so the same stream start as today, but on a Friday, and we go and do some big org thing. DWGP, Drinkers with Gaming Problems, on the org side of things. If you want to come and have a go at the org, just do me a favour. When you apply, make sure you include your Discord username in your application, otherwise you'll get rejected. I want to make sure everyone's kind of part of the community and not just hanging around for it. Yep, and there are links down to VR and Pigeon Spaceport, the RSI Scorpius model, down in the description. If you want to know more about that, go click. No need to, though. It's all good. This is a hobby for me, not a career. So please don't feel pressured to do anything. I just want to say something right at the end here. I have disabled Super Chat, Super Thanks, and everything else. YouTube did something funny and stopped money coming to me that had been donated by people in the stream. We're trying to sort that out, but basically I demonetized for some reason. YouTube still allowed people to Super Chat, but then the money went to people with the music. That appears to be what's happened. I demonetized because I know that the music I use is not licensed. It's the stuff at the start and the stuff at the end. That's why I demonetized. However, for some reason, YouTube still allowed them. So super chats and everything will be disabled going forward because I don't want to mislead you guys and have it go somewhere that it wasn't going. So we've disabled that. Again, no issue. It's all good. No problems at all. Like I said, this is a hobby. It's a passion project for me. It's not about the money. It's about me connecting with you guys. You've been watching Drinkers with Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'll see you soon.